Welcome everybody to today's Prospects webinar, which is Managing Your Money. Today we're joined by Vivi from Black Bullion, and she'll be talking to you about how to manage your money as a student. She'll be presenting for around about 20 minutes, and then there'll be 10 minutes at the end to answer any questions that come into the Q&A option. So please feel free to utilise that if you've got any questions that you'd like to submit. We have subtitles on for this webinar. If you find them distracting and you don't need them, just on the same kind of row as your Q&A, it will say live transcript, and you've got the option to turn those off there. I think that covers all the introductions from my side. Vivi, over to you.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. I hope your weather is better than mine. I'm Vivi. I'm the founder of Black Bullion. I'm going to pop up a presentation, but as is always the way with these things, if you want to follow us along on Instagram, please feel free to do so. I've got 4 copies of our Stay Financially Healthy While You Study book, which we will send out to 4 people who join our Instagram in the next hour, which is at Black Bullion. So feel free to come and be friends with us over there. We're very, very nice people. So we are going to be talking very, very briefly and very top level about money, which is the one thing nobody wants to talk about, but the one thing that everybody struggles with a little bit. So I'm going to run you through kind of budgeting and how to budget and how to get the most bang for your buck. I want to start by telling you all that if you are worrying about money, you're not the only one. So if there's nothing else that you get out of this session, please know that whatever it is that you're struggling with, a lot of other people are struggling with it as well. There are a lot of people that can help you. So put all of that to the side and let's get cracking. I will just also let you know that there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So if you've got any questions, please do pop them in there and we will try and get to all of the questions that there are. There is no such thing as a stupid question. I promise. I have heard them all. All right. So when it comes to your money, there are 4 different levers that you can pull to make your money better or worse. These are the things that you can impact. That's what I mean by levers. So we've got your income, which is the money that's coming in, which as a student includes your student loan. When you're a student, your student loan counting as income is the only time in your life when that is true. We're not going to cover that in any great detail, but for the purposes of your university life and your education life, your student loan is counted as income, as money that's coming in. Expenditure is money that goes out, and we're going to look into all of the different ways in which that happens. And then the other 2 levers are your assets and liabilities, which is the stuff that you own and the stuff that you owe. So if you are if you're doing buy now, pay later, for example, and you still owe £19 on those pair of sneakers that you bought, that's a liability, that's a debt. We're not going to cover your net worth because that's a whole hour in and of itself. We're only going to look at budgeting. So what is a budget? At a very basic level, a budget is the difference between what's coming in and what's going out. It is no more complicated than that, okay? The money that's coming in and the money that's going out. When you are at university, you've got or have the ability to have a bunch of different kinds of money that come in. Your student loan, the money that comes in from the student loans company, that's the money that you live on, your maintenance loan. That for the purposes of university is money that's coming in. You also have scholarships and bursaries, which can be for academic performance. Let's say that you are top at maths or top at engineering or top in nursing. There are scholarships and bursaries that are available to that. There are also grants, which is a slightly different type of money, but scholarships, bursaries, and grants are all money that you get for free and don't have to pay back. Your student loan is a debt. It's a loan that is going to have to be repaid back later, okay? Get your hands on all the scholarships, bursaries, and grants that you can. It's free money. There is literally a scholarship for people who say that they will be vegetarian for their first year of university. There's a £500 scholarship for that. So there's a lot of money out there. Make sure that you get it. Then there's the job. A lot of people want to have, a job while they're studying. So maybe you're working part-time at Macca's, or you're doing a McDonald's. In Australia, we call it Macca's, at McDonald's, or you're doing, some time doing deliveries, or you're stacking shelves at Tesco's, which, by the way, Tesco's and all the supermarkets are looking for loads of people. So if you're looking for some extra money, that could be a way of getting it. And then the side hustle is a very new way of making money. We didn't really do that up until about 10 years ago. This is if you are, for example, selling stuff on Etsy, or you are designing websites in your spare time, anything that you're doing on the side that could maybe turn into a business, but maybe doesn't, but is bringing in some extra money, but isn't consistent, would be considered a side hustle. There are thousands of ways of making extra money, and we're going to go into them. But these are really the 5 main ways in which students are making money while they're studying. There are, however, a lot of ways in which money goes out, and this isn't everything. These are the top kind of 8 things that students spend money on while they're studying. The absolute biggest is your rent and your bills. Now, I don't know where everybody is around the country, so this rent might look really, really cheap or might look really, really expensive depending on where you are. So if you live in a major town like Manchester or Edinburgh or London, your rent is going to be a lot more expensive than if you live in Aberystwyth or in Leeds, right? So rent and bills will be very different depending on where you are in the country, but roughly across the country, roughly on average, you're looking at about £500. This is on a monthly basis. So it is a lot of money. Your groceries, also, you need to eat, better to eat healthy food and get stuff from the supermarket and learn how to cook, which is a great skill, then spend the £33 on takeaways. But of course, there'll be a balance of both. Your course is going to cost some money, some courses more expensive than others. If you are looking at studying fashion, for example, you might need £1,000 for materials during the year, like actual fabrics. Whereas if you are studying computer engineering, it might only be textbooks, for example. So different courses have different levels of expense. Everybody takes some sort of holiday during their time. If you're looking at this monthly, you're looking at a couple of £100 over the year's period. I think that number is a bit low, but that is the national average. Transport includes getting to and from class, so from your housing to your campus, but also is about visiting family and visiting friends. If your family is in Edinburgh and you live in Brighton, you're going to spend more money than if you're living at home and your friends are all local and your university is local. So again, thinking about the averages, a lot of money being spent on takeaways. Takeaways are great. Could the money be better spent? That's a question you need to ask yourself. And then, of course, spending money on clothes, because showing up on campus naked is not really the done thing. And then, of course, bits and pieces of all sorts of other things like medical and things like that. So a lot of money coming in, a lot of money going out. The question is, how do you balance them out? Now, while you're at uni, chances are you are going to be living right on the edge of the money. If £500 is coming in, you're probably spending around £500. The problem is that when you're spending more than the money that is coming in, that's how you get into even more debt. Again, not catastrophic. I don't want anybody there to be thinking, oh my God, if I get into any debt, it's terrible. It's not. It is all manageable. Unmanageable debt is where debt becomes a problem. But a certain amount of debt while you're at university is to a certain degree kind of to be expected, although it can be managed, and we'll look at how. So you've got the money coming in, which is the square in the rectangle in the middle. The money going out on the left, as you can see, that little light purple area at the top, that's the money that you're spending that is more than the money that is going in, that is coming in. So let's say you've got £500 coming in, but you've got £520 going out. That additional £20, that can only come from debt. And that's when debt is how you get into ultimate trouble, right? But let's say instead of the £500 that's coming in, you're spending £480. That's £20, that light purple bit. That's the bit that gives you some sort of freedom. It enables you to spend money on other things. Later in life, that difference is how you get wealthy. It's how you buy a home. It's how you invest in the stock market. It's how you buy crypto, if that's what you want to be doing. So ideally, as you go through your life, and certainly as you enter your first job, you want to move from being in debt and spending more than the money that is coming in, to spending only the money that's coming in, to spending less the money that's coming in and being able to save and invest that money. People who build wealth out of the money that they're not spending. So when we were talking back here about the £33, for example, if that £33 went into, buying some shares or being saved for later, then if that's every single month, at the end of the year, you'd have almost £1,000 saved. I'm not saying don't buy takeaways. I'm just saying be careful about where your money is going and think about where it can be done, where it can do the most amount of good. So how do you decide about the spending? There's two types of spending. There's good kinds of spending and there's bad kinds of spending, right? You saw that coming. So good spending is the stuff that you buy in order to stay alive. So food, very important. There are some real horror stories of people who don't eat properly on campus and get sick. By the way, getting sick, very expensive. So avoid that. But the stuff that you need to stay alive, so the roof over your head, the food that goes onto your plate, medicines that you might need, that kind of stuff. The stuff that you have to buy to help you succeed, so the books that you need, getting to class with transport, and also things that give you a great student experience. And sometimes that's about going clubbing with your mates. Sometimes it's about signing up to a society on campus that is doing things that you feel are going to be valuable, networking with the right people, meeting the right people, making friends, getting the right experience, being able to get work experience. Sometimes these things cost money, but they're absolutely worth it. So if somebody said to you, come and do a week of work experience at my office, and it's going to cost you £10 a day for the transport, that £50 is probably worth spending. But if somebody says to you, come, we're going to go to Ibiza and we're going to get pissed for a week, and that's going to cost you £500, that £500 might not be worth spending. So it's all about deciding what is the value to you of spending the money, which brings us to bad spending. And again, bad spending doesn't mean that you absolutely shouldn't do it. It means that you should think twice about it. Bad spending is the stuff that you buy that you don't really need, probably with money that you don't really have, to impress people that you don't really care about, who probably don't care about you, right? Be wary of buying things because celebrities say so. You're smarter than that. Just because Kim Kardashian has just gone out and bought a £2,000 headband doesn't mean that you should too, okay? This is, by the way, something that plagues not just students. This is a lifelong problem. Peer pressure is something that everybody struggles with, no matter what, no matter how old you are. And by the way, no matter how rich you are. When you're rich, you compete about the size of your private jet, right? Everybody is competing with somebody. The challenge to all of you, the challenge to all of us is, can you be able to rise above all of that? So that's the good spending and the bad spending. So how can you cut your spending? And feel free to screenshot it because I'm not going to read it. But there are a few really obvious ways of cutting your spend. The first is to plan ahead. So if your family does live in Edinburgh and you are studying in London, plan your trip home for Christmas early. You'll get a cheaper ticket than if you buy it last minute. A little bit of organization can save a lot of money. That's also true in the supermarket. If you can see that there is toothpaste that is 50% off and you don't quite need it yet, but you will in a month's time, buy it now because you'll pay a lot less money, right? Look at the little things, the avocado toast, which is the grand cliche. Look at the things that you're buying every single day. If you're buying a daily coffee because you're a coffee addict like I am, maybe you get together with your flatmates and you buy a coffee machine on sale, and you'll save a lot of money. That it'll also be better for the environment than getting the takeaways. Are you committed to subscriptions that you don't use? Subscriptions are a huge problem for all of us. You sign on for free for a month, you forget that it's there. And then if you have a look at the end of the year, you've been buying the Financial Times every single week, even though you've never read it, but you've paid for it on subscription. Have a look at those things. Take 5 minutes to look through your bank statements. It'll probably be worth hundreds of pounds to you. So check that. And have a look at getting your fast fashion. Have a look at putting that on the back burner. There are lots of other ways of getting clothes. You can repair clothes. There are vintage shops. There is buying good quality stuff and having it last for multiple seasons instead of buying fast fashion, killing your pocket as well as the planet at the same time. Screenshot it, have a look at it later. The other way of keeping your balanced budget is you can spend less, but you can also make more. And this is what we were talking about with the side hustle and with the jobs. Couple of things to bear in mind. Your number one priority on campus is to get the best degree that you can for what it is that you want to be doing. So don't get a second job if you're doing a 40-hour week. For example, medical students struggle to get to work a second job just because there's not enough hours in the day. So to be making a little bit of extra money and sacrificing your degree, that might not be a good calculation. In fact, it no doubt is not a good calculation. So if you really need the money, and if it's not going to overload your schedule, then getting a second job is a really good idea. It'll build some skills for the future as well as a little bit of extra money. If you want to be your boss in the future, you want to build your own business, and getting a second job helps you to develop that experience, then it's also a good reason to do it. But if you can't get a job because you don't have the time, then hustling up, as we were saying, is also a good way of making some extra money. And there's a range of different ways that you can do that. Again, feel free to screenshot. I'm not going to read it through, but there are a whole bunch of extra ways in which you can make money. You can have a look at your hobbies. So as I mentioned, designing websites and graphic design, writing, all of those kind of skills are really, they're really valuable. You can put yourself onto websites like Fiverr, and people will pay you to do something that you kind of enjoy doing anyway. So why not? Plus you can build some really great experience. There's a lot of freelance stuff out there as well, for everything from coding through to writing, through to cooking. I mean, there's all sorts of weird and wonderful freelance stuff that's out there. There is pet sitting that you can do. There is babysitting that you can do, and you can sell stuff on Amazon or on Etsy. You can set up a shop in about 5 minutes and sell bespoke chocolate if you want to. So there are all sorts of ways of being able to make money on the side. The one that I will draw your attention to is the one at the bottom of the screen, which is about seasonal work, which often happens outside of term time. So as I said, Tesco's are looking, and so are Morrison's, and so are a lot of the supermarkets at the moment. They're looking for people to work over the Christmas period, which is going to be very busy. Chances are your local store is currently advertising. Have a look. Christmas and summer are great times to make money without impacting on your education. So have a look at that. Spend 5 minutes and have a bit of a look around and see kind of what's out there. And again, make sure that you're applying for all of the scholarships and bursaries that might be available to you. In terms of actually budgeting, once you've got as much money coming in as possible and you've reduced your spending to a sensible level, let the technology do the heavy lifting for you. There are a whole bunch of apps out there. I'm not recommending one over the other. I wanted to give you kind of the full range. All of these are free at the initial point. So have a look at which one of these works well for you. Clio and Plum will, for example, round up and save for you. Starling, Monzo, Revolut are all basically your bank, on your phone. Curve brings everything together, and Tully will help you build your own kind of free budget and help you to manage around all of the pieces. Use technology not just to chat with friends and to yell at somebody on Instagram. Use the technology to help you to manage your money as easily and as best as possible. And before we get into questions, just to remind you, there are a load of people out there who can help if there is any sort of problem. First point of call after family and friends, obviously, is the university. Universities have dozens of staff members whose only job it is to look after you. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be ashamed. Don't think you're the only one. We've heard of people who've gotten into £100,000 worth of gambling debt. We've heard of people who lent money to a friend who never paid it back. Nothing that you go through is unique to you. You are a unique person. Your money problems are not unique. I promise you. Ask for help. The sooner you ask for help, the easier it'll be to overcome whatever challenge you've got. If you're not comfortable going to the university, there are any number of independent and anonymous sites that you can go to. Feel free to screenshot it. And if you need anything, feel free to reach out to them. You can always get in touch with me through Instagram. So if you've got any problems, do reach out. Don't struggle alone. Budgeting is not inherently difficult. It just takes 5 minutes for you to decide what kind of life do you want with your money and how can you best get there. So with that, I'm going to turn off my screen so I can see if there's any questions, because I haven't been able to do it while we've been on here. But I would love to hear if you've got any questions. So please do pop them into the Q&A, because at the moment there are no questions. Ellie, anything that's been submitted to you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So my screen's gone completely blank, so I can't actually see if anything's coming. I'm very, very sorry about that.
No problem.
You'll have to maybe take charge of the screen, because I'm just looking at a blank one at the moment. However, I thought that was a really brilliant presentation, and one of the things that really stuck out for me, and even now I'd suggest it, is as you said, just keep an eye on your bank statement. There's nothing more daunting than, if you think it's not going to be particularly attractive, is opening your own banking app. But it's one of the most important things, really, isn't it? Just to make sure that you are keeping an eye on what's going in and what's going out. and to make sure there's no issues or anything, unexpected payments that you weren't aware of. So that's a really good one, definitely.
Absolutely. Keeping an eye on what you're spending, and also being able to be comfortable with your friends, which isn't something that we put on the presentation, but being able to say to your friends, you know, I can't afford to go out for a £30 brunch. Let's go for a picnic, or let's go only for drinks, or have some drinks before you leave your housing, before you go out for a night out. There are all sorts of ways in which you can look after your money for you, because at the end of the day, when you run out of money, that's when life gets more difficult. As long as there's money, everything becomes a little bit easier. So budgeting and keeping track of it does make a huge difference to your mental health as well, to your friends' mental health, to how well you sleep at night. People who have big debt problems don't sleep well, which impacts very much on physical health, which impacts on your mental health. So to spend 5 minutes to protect your mental health is really worth the time. So would strongly urge you to do that as well.
Definitely. No, that's brilliant. That was really, really great, Vivi. Thank you so much. It was so informative. And for everybody that's registered, you'll be getting the on-demand link. So if you want to go through and have another look at the slides, really urge you to do that. If you want to share it with any friends, anything you want to check back on, it would also be available on the Prospects website and on our YouTube channel as well. So even in a couple of months, if you want a bit of a reminder, this information will be out there for you. So Vivi, I just wanted to say that was brilliant. Thank you so much. Super informative, and I'm sure all of our viewers have taken some really good information away. So thank you very much.
It's an absolute pleasure. And a couple of people saying that they're following us on Instagram and saying thank you. So it's absolutely my pleasure. If we can ever help with anything, obviously reach out. And thank you so much for having me, Ellie. I appreciate the invitation.
Thank you very much. Right. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Have a great day, everyone.